I am a dedicated archaeologist, tirelessly tracing the footsteps of the past. I have always been haunted by a question. If ancient ruins could speak, what would they tell us? Over thousands of years, countless magnificent civilizations have risen and quietly vanished, leaving behind mysterious legacies. Although we have deciphered Egyptian hieroglyphs and cuneiform, we still face countless silent challenges, waiting for human intellect to solve. They are unlike any known language. They contain thoughts and perhaps even earth-shattering secrets of civilizations buried beneath the sands of time. Today, I will take you to the most remote land on Earth. Here, one of the most difficult codes is on the verge of being deciphered. Rongorongo, the mysterious script of Easter Island. Why is this language so difficult to decipher? Could there be a hidden message within these silent echoes waiting for us to discover it? A secret that could change the way humanity perceives history and ancient civilizations on this planet? Imagine a tiny, isolated spot in the vast Pacific Ocean, over 3,700 kilometers from the South American continent and about 2,000 kilometers from the nearest inhabited island. This is Rapa Nui, one of the most remote and isolated inhabited places on Earth. This isolated geographical position not only shaped the landscape, but also nurtured a unique civilization that developed in an astonishing way. When I first set foot on Rapa Nui, I was overwhelmed by its breathtakingly wild and mysterious beauty. Endless stretches of green coconut palms embrace the dormant volcanoes, leaving only the craters as traces. Along the rugged rocky coastline, the fierce waves of the Pacific Ocean crash day and night, creating an endless symphony of primal force. And then, amidst this majestic scenery, the silent witnesses of a lost era begin to appear. Look at these Moai statues, with their contemplative faces and deep-set eyes, some gazing toward the horizon, others looking deep into the island. All of them have become symbols of Easter Island. The Moai are not just works of art, but also powerful evidence of resilience, perseverance, and the complex belief system of the ancient Rapa Nui people. When standing at the foot of a Moai, I truly feel strangely small. These temple guardians are typically 4 to 10 meters tall, weighing tens of tons, with some still in the quarry estimated to weigh up to 82 tons. Astonishingly, they were carved using only crude stone tools, then transported kilometers from the Rongorongo volcano and erected on massive stone platforms used for ceremonies. I have spent a lot of time studying the hypotheses about how the Rapa Nui people achieved this extraordinary feat. Did they use wooden sleds combined with human power and ropes to drag them? Or did they invent a special technique to make the giant statues walk by swaying them back and forth? Each hypothesis has supporting evidence and logical gaps, but all point to one undeniable fact. The intelligence and resilience of the Rapa Nui people are beyond question. The true purpose of the Moai statues remains a fiercely debated topic. Were they idols for gods, representations of deceased ancestors, or sacred guardians protecting the island from hostile forces? Or were they simply symbols of power, a competition between tribes to demonstrate wealth and influence? Whatever the answer, the Moai still stand tall as a testament to the mystery of Rapa Nui, showing us how much we still don't know about ancient civilizations. But I have an even greater, deeper secret within this mystery, a puzzle that has kept us, archaeologists and linguists alike, pondering ceaselessly for centuries. It is Rongorongo, a unique and strange writing system so unusual that it seems to belong to no other civilization on Earth. When I first touched a Rongorongo carving in a museum, it felt as if I were holding a fragment of a lost world, a language of dreams. But how can we listen to this voice when the key has been buried by time? Look closely at the characters of Rongorongo. They are not simple phonetic lines like our Latin alphabet. nor are they entirely clear, visual pictorial symbols like some other hieroglyphs. These are cliff carvings, exquisite and vivid depictions of the world in which the Rapa Nui lived. I have spent hours observing them under a magnifying glass. Some carvings clearly depict humans in various poses, walking, sitting, or even performing mysterious ritual gestures. There are depictions of animals, seabirds with wings spread, swimming, fish, slow-moving sea turtles, and even creatures we can hardly identify. These could be extinct species, or ones that exist only in mythology. There are also images of plants, some local species, and primitive tools with unclear specific functions. More difficult are the characters that are highly abstract. They seem to represent not just single words, but complex concepts, small stories packed into individual images. Each character is a piece of the larger puzzle about the Rapa Nui worldview. These images are primarily carved on wooden tablets made from the trunk or branches of the totomiro tree, a plant that has become extinct on the island. Additionally, they are engraved on whale or shark bones, and even on stone. However, these are extremely rare. Each material, each line, tells a story about the lives and environment of the people who created them. If the symbols are difficult enough to understand, reading Rongorongo pushes the complexity to a whole new level. The system follows a unique rule called boustrophedon, a Greek word meaning as the ox plows. To understand the reading method, imagine a farmer plowing a field. He moves from one end to the other, and when he reaches the end, he turns around and plows the next row in the opposite direction. Rongorongo works the same way. You read one line from left to right. Then, when you finish the line, you must rotate the tablet 180 degrees and read the next line in reverse, from right to left. This back and forth rotation, line after line, creates a complex reading labyrinth that demands intense concentration and patience. I have tried this reading method in the lab, and it is not at all simple. This is an extremely rare rule, found only in a few other very isolated ancient civilizations. This only adds to the mystery of Rongorongo. Why did the Rapa Nui choose such a complex reading method? Could it be related to a ritual, a special mnemonic technique, or a philosophy about the cyclical nature of life? But finding answers to these questions is not easy. We feel as if we are racing against time worldwide. There are only barely over 20 Rongorongo artifacts left, scattered from Santiago Gustaf in Chile to Arugucururinga in San Vidub, or Smo. Bone fragments in Honolulu. That is all that remains of a vast intellectual treasure. This scarcity creates a major obstacle. How can we decipher a language when we have only a few dozen pages of text to study, without any translations for comparison? The mystery of the origin and purpose of Rongorongo remains one of the biggest questions. Researchers believe it is a writing system developed independently, without influence from other civilizations. This confirms the extraordinary intelligence of the Rapa Nui people, completely isolated humans who could still create such a complex recording system. Ultimately, what do these tablets record? This question is like a flame always flickering in the mind of every researcher, a promise of knowledge we long to reach. The hypotheses are as diverse as the Rongorongo characters themselves, each opening a new possibility, a new world. Do these intricate characters tell the history and genealogy of the Rapa Nui? Could they record the names of legendary chiefs, important events that shaped the island's destiny, or even bloody tribal wars that are now only legends? Or are they sacred hymns, stories of mythology, and sacred rituals? Many researchers believe Rongorongo contains practical knowledge, essential information for life on an isolated island. Perhaps they are agricultural guides for farming on poor, barren soil, fishing techniques on the vast ocean, or social rules to maintain order in an isolated community. Some researchers even suggest the character sequences might record calendars and astronomical knowledge, such as lunar cycles, seasons, or important celestial events that but the Rapa Nui used to plan their activities. And here is the most fascinating, haunting hypothesis for me. Could Rongorongo be a detailed guide on how the Rapa Nui moved and erected the giant Moai statues? If true, we would decode one of the greatest archaeological wonders in history. A forgotten technology could completely change our understanding of ancient human capabilities. But whether they record history, mythology, practical knowledge, or secrets of the universe, deciphering Rongorongo will help us gain a deeper understanding of the soul and unique worldview of the Rapa Nui civilization. Asterisk, but what caused such a sophisticated and unique writing system to vanish completely from the memory of the very people who created it, to the point that no one later could understand it? This is the greatest tragedy of Rongorongo, a heartbreaking story that an archaeologist like me must reconstruct from scarce clues, artifacts, incomplete oral traditions, and archaeological traces. In fact, in the past, the islanders still knew how to read and understand these characters. But then an unforeseen, catastrophic storm struck, permanently changing the fate of Rapa Nui and nearly erasing their entire ancient knowledge. Between 1862 and 1863, a large-scale slave raid from Peru occurred. Ruthless slave traders swept across Rapa Nui, capturing thousands of native people between 1/3 and 1/2 of the population. They targeted not only strong young men, but specifically hunted the cultural elite, those who understood the writing system, including priests, elders, and individuals who preserved knowledge of the language and traditional rituals. When the few surviving slaves were eventually returned to the island, they inadvertently accelerated the disappearance of Rongorongo further. Infectious diseases and smallpox, previously unknown to the Rapa Nui people, swept across the island. From thousands, the population of Rapa Nui plummeted to only about 111 people by 1877. The collapse of social structures, traditional rituals, and especially the complete extinction of ancient knowledge happened rapidly and tragically. The voice of Rongorongo, already faint, now fell completely silent when missionaries and scholars arrived later to try to understand it. They discovered that no one could fluently read Rongorongo anymore. The last keepers of the script had passed away, taking the decryption key with them to their graves. This is the cruel, tragic difference compared to the case of ancient Egyptian hieroglyphs. For Egypt, we were fortunate to have the Rosetta Stone, a unique inscription containing the same content. Written in 3 different ways: Egyptian hieroglyphs, Demotic script, and ancient Greek. Thanks to it, researcher Jean-Francois Champollion found the key to unlock the door to a brilliant civilization. Rongorongo was not so lucky. It has no Rosetta Stone. Each Rongorongo tablet is an isolated island with no connection to any other language we know, and no bilingual text exists for comparison. It stands alone in the vast ocean of ununderstood communication methods. Although the key seems to have been lost forever, the desire to hear the voice of a lost civilization drives numerous scientists to dedicate themselves to the effort of decipherment. As an archaeologist, I have witnessed and felt the perseverance and sometimes despair of these brilliant minds. Early efforts began in the 19th century. In 1864, missionary Hérault was the first to document and collect Rongorongo tablets. He described his astonishment at seeing these strange characters on the remote island. In the early 20th century, British archaeologist Catherine spent many years living on Easter Island. She lived among the natives, meticulously recording everything about their culture and language. Through this, she discovered and documented many valuable clues from the last people who still remembered a little about Rongorongo, though not enough to fully decipher the writing system. Her work remains one of the most fundamental and important documents on Rapa Nui culture. Later, Father Sebastian, a German priest and archaeologist, lived on the island for decades in the mid-20th century. He diligently collected and studied the remaining Rongorongo tablets, creating a detailed catalog. This became an invaluable database for future generations of researchers. Entering the modern era, scientific decipherment efforts became more sophisticated. Thomas Barthel, a scholar in the mid-20th century, was a pioneer in establishing a system to encode and organize Rongorongo characters. This later became known as the Barthel Catalog. He also created a dictionary based on the frequency of character repetition and speculated that they might record calendars or ritual songs. Although Barthel's monumental work provided an important framework for later research, it still could not fully decode the mysterious language. At the end of the 20th century, Stephen Roger Fisher caused a stir when he claimed to have partially deciphered Rongorongo. He argued it was a type of bird calendar or a record of bird mating events. Fisher translated a few short passages, but unfortunately, his findings were not widely accepted by the scientific community due to insufficient strong evidence and lack of consistency. More recently, even artificial intelligence has been deployed to search for complex patterns that the human eye might miss. Every decipherment effort seems to hit a dead end. Whenever a new hypothesis is proposed, it quickly runs into contradictory evidence or lacks convincing power. The absence of a bilingual P is the greatest obstacle. Moreover, with only about 20 texts available, there is not enough material for statistical analysis or to identify grammatical rules. The unique nature of the language is also a factor. It might not be a spoken language in the traditional sense, but a mnemonic system, a form of symbolic notation. And finally, the passing of the native readers has caused this knowledge to be lost forever. It is like trying to assemble a giant jigsaw puzzle missing 99% of its pieces, with no one remembering what the original picture looked like. The voice of Rongorongo remains silent, a mystery challenging human intellect. Yet, I often wonder, could Rongorongo be more than just everyday records, but evidence of a level of knowledge far beyond our understanding, perhaps even cosmic knowledge? Could they be star maps recording astronomical cycles, or even information from ancient extraterrestrial visitors' records of Earth that we still cannot decipher? This is a deeply troubling thought that often crosses my mind when standing before unsolved mysteries. Are the limits of current human intellect preventing us from accessing a higher level of knowledge? A language of the universe that our ancestors accidentally touched and recorded? Rongorongo, with its independent nature and unusual complexity, seems to whisper of something beyond human understanding of ancient civilizations. These undeciphered languages remind us that our world and the universe is still full of countless secrets that modern science is striving to uncover. Sometimes the answer lies right before our eyes. We just lack the method to read and understand it, or we are not yet ready to accept the truths they might reveal. Although the journey to decipher Rongorongo has spanned decades with many failures, hope has never faded. Whenever a young scientist begins researching Rongorongo, whenever a new technology like artificial intelligence is applied, we light a new spark of hope. Will we ever truly hear the voice of Rongorongo, the voice of the ancient Rapa Nui people, and understand what they wanted to pass on to future generations? As an archaeologist, I believe the search never ends. Every stone we turn, every character we analyze, is a small step forward in this great decipherment. And you, the viewers, what fascinates you most about Rongorongo? Do you have any hypotheses about the true content of these mysterious wooden tablets? Although the mystery of Rongorongo remains unsolved, I can affirm that it is not the only unsolved code in the world. Right here in vast Asia, another of the most bizarre writing legacies from a once glorious civilization that later sank into oblivion is waiting to be deciphered. What is it? Join the Mr. Bichu's channel to explore in the next videos.